Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So it's time again to do my anticipated releases, this time for the books coming out between October and December. I feel like this comes so quickly every season. Here we are again. You know, September has been and gone. That tends to be the busiest month for publications, for new books coming out. But there are still some hidden gems that I'm sure will be making their way to us. And yeah, today I'm just going to chat through some of those books with you. So without much further ado, let's get right into the books. So first off, a book that I think many people are going to be anticipating because it is from a BookTube favourite author is Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. Celeste Ng is probably most well known for her book Little Fires Everywhere, which was a bit of a BookTube darling. Celeste Ng's strength is really in writing these complicated family dynamics. Seems to be very much a character-focused, relationship-focused writer, which is definitely my favourite thing to read about, so very much looking forward to this. 12-year-old Bird Gardner lives a quiet existence with his loving but broken father, a former linguist who now shelves books in Harvard's library. He knows not to ask too many questions, stand out too much, stray too far. For a decade, their lives have been governed by laws written to preserve American culture in the wake of years of economic instability and violence. To keep the peace and restore prosperity, the authorities are now allowed to relocate children of dissidents, especially those of Asian origin, and libraries have been forced to remove books seen as unpatriotic, including the work of Bird's mother Margaret, a Chinese-American poet who left the family when he was 9 years old. Bird has grown up disavowing his mother and her poems. He doesn't know her work or what happened to her, and he knows he shouldn't wonder. But when he receives a mysterious letter containing only a cryptic drawing, he is drawn into a quest to find her. His journey will take him through the many folk tales she poured into his head as a child, through the ranks of an underground network of librarians, into the lives of the children who have been taken, and finally to New York, where a new act of defiance may be the beginning of a much-needed change. Our Missing Hearts is an old story made new, of the way supposedly civilized communities can turn a blind eye to the most searing injustice. It's a story about the power and limitations of art to create change in the world, the lessons and legacies we pass on to our children, and how any of us can survive a broken world with our hearts intact. That's coming out on the 4th of October. And following up from that, coming out on the 6th of October is Hester by Laurie, Lico, Albanese. A lovely bit of historical fiction that pays homage to The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. A captivating imagined tale of the woman who inspired Hester Prynne, the tragic heroine of The Scarlet Letter, mining the legacy of the Salem witch trials. Glasgow, 1829. Isabel, a young seamstress, and her husband Edward sail for New England, in flight from his mountain debts and addictions. But arriving in Salem, Massachusetts, Edward soon takes off again, and Isabel finds herself penniless and alone. Then she meets Nathaniel, a fledgling writer, and the two are instantly drawn to each other. He is haunted by his ancestors who sent innocent women to the gallows during the Salem witch trials, while she is an unusually gifted needleworker troubled by her own strange talents. Nathaniel and Isabel grow ever closer. Together, they are dark storyteller and muse, enchanter and enchanted. But which is which? Next up, coming out on the 15th of October, because I always have to throw in a little bit of Tudor goodness, we have The Boleyns, From the Tudors to the Windsors by Amanda Harvey-Purse. Anne Boleyn, second wife of Henry VIII, was executed on the 19th of May 1536. Her sister Mary, rumoured mistress to the monarch, lived on and survived the king's wrath. But this is not the end of the tale of the Boleyns and the British royal family. Their stories have remained entwined for almost 500 years, through countless wars, crises and triumphs. In this book, Amanda Harvey-Purse delves into the archives to tell the remarkable story of a number of individuals who form part of the Boleyn bloodline, spanning the worlds of the military, art and politics. Those featured are Robert Devereux, executed for treason after leading an army against the government in the early 17th century, Lettice Knollys, banished from the court of Elizabeth I after marrying the wrong man, and Cecilia Nina Bowles-Lyon, the grandmother of and godmother to Elizabeth II, who married Claude Bowles-Lyon and played a significant role in the convalescence of soldiers during the First World War. And I really like the idea of this, looking at the Boleyn family in a way that they haven't been seen before. They're only ever really associated with the Tudor period, but of course there were descendants. The name didn't live on, but the bloodline did. One that I saw mentioned on Olive over at Book Olive's channel, and I couldn't leave this alone. I had to mention it because it looks really, really fun. And this was a key film from my childhood. Coming out on the 18th of October is Bring It On, the complete story of the cheerleading movie that changed, like, everything. No, seriously, by Kase Wickman. I remember the first time that my sister introduced me to Bring It On, and it changed all of our lives, I think. And this is kind of a retrospective on that film and the impact, the legacy that it made on culture, featuring dozens of interviews with the cast and crew, fans of the franchise, film scholars, former and current cheerleaders, fellow filmmakers, and more. Gabrielle Union, Kirsten Dunst, and Eliza Dushku have all risen to fame since their performances in the original Cheer classic, but bold-faced names like Solange Knowles, Rihanna, Hayden Panettiere, Ashley Tisdale, and more have also appeared in Bring It On films. The first-time director who helmed the movie, Peyton Reed, now has multiple Marvel smash hit films under his belt. Not bad for a movie that almost didn't get greenlit in the first place, but went on to win the box office its opening weekend, gross more than 90 million worldwide, and spawn a half-dozen sequels, a Tony-nominated musical, and a whole new genre of female-led films. With the support of the filmmakers and producers, author and pop culture expert Kase Wickman has accessed Universal's archives and conducted new interviews with cast, crew, and more for a full reveal of all the stories fans will love in this complete history and examination of the legacy of the greatest cheerleading movie almost never made. Beyond its 20th anniversary, the legacy of Bring It On endures. It's time we all understood how it changed, like everything. Next up, coming out on the 3rd of November, you know me, Greg Jenner publishes a book. I'm gonna buy it, I'm gonna read it. And this is his first children's book, and it is titled You Are History, From the Alarm Clock to the Toilet, The Amazing History of the Things You Use Every Day. This feels like a children's version of his adult book, A Million Years in a Day. In that book, he basically goes through different daily rituals that we all do and kind of tracks their historic context in what different people used to do, you know, to wake up, to brush their teeth, the meals that they had, how they slept. And this feels very reminiscent of that, but instead we are looking at different daily objects rather than rituals. From the alarm clock to the toilet, discover the incredible history all around you in this hilarious and fascinating book from the popular historian and podcaster Greg Jenner. Thought history was only in museums? Think again. Join Greg Jenner as he takes you on a trip through the amazing history hidden in the things you use every day. Did you know that the first TV was made out of biscuit tins and knitting needles? Or that the humble paperclip helped to lead an anti-war movement? Or that a few hundred years ago it was fashionable to style your hair with cat poo? Find out the delightful, daft, and downright deadly history of your everyday life that your teachers won't tell you about. Bursting with humorous illustrations and entertaining true stories, this is history, but not as you know it. I don't care if this is a children's book, I'm going to be reading it for myself, and when my little niece is old enough, I will be passing this on to her, definitely. From the looks of this, this is one that is for your slightly older primary school child, and I just love this. I love making history more fun and accessible to kids. Next up, coming out on the 3rd of November, is the second collection from a poet that I absolutely loved reading in 2020. From the author of Give This Heart a Pen, we have Wearing My Mother's Heart by Sophia Thakur. Somebody Give My Heart a Pen was my favourite poetry collection, one of my favourite books of 2020. It just brought me so much joy. I was even inspired to write a few poems after reading it. That was not a habit that lasted long, but it was good while it lasted. And so I am definitely looking forward to reading her new collection. To my children, I will say, let the river break between your lips. In her lyrical and heartfelt second poetry collection, Sophia Thakur takes us on an emotionally charged journey through the past lives of women and considers what it means to be a woman in today's society. Exploring topics such as identity, race, politics, relationship, mental health, and self-love, she weaves together the voices of a grandmother, mother, and daughter, and examines how past generations have given us the freedom to speak out. Encompassing love from first crush to breakup, the history that comes before us, and the brave moments that make us, this collection will resonate with all young women as they approach the joys and pains of adulthood and learn to navigate life. Also coming out on the 3rd of November is a Christmas book, and you know that I love a good Christmas book, and I've got a couple of these on this list. You know, my autumn winter anticipated releases would not be complete without a couple of Christmas books, I think. And for this first one, I have A Ukrainian Christmas by Yaroslav Hrytsak. Obviously, the war in Ukraine is very much in all of our hearts at the moment, and I think this provides a really lovely, like, heartwarming perspective on what it is like in Ukraine to celebrate Christmas. Understanding traditions that are different to our own, Christmas brings together the indestructibility of hope in times of the greatest hopelessness. As long as we celebrate this holiday, we can neither be defeated nor destroyed. This is the message that Ukraine is trying to convey to the world, and this is what our book is about. From Christmas music to gifts and food, as well as the look back through the country's rich and troubled history through the perspective of the festive season, this beautifully illustrated and powerful book introduces readers to Ukraine's unique Christmas traditions. In a country where East and West meet, this is a fascinating and unmissable guide to capturing the spirit of one of the most important times of the year, and a powerful reminder of the strength of holding on to your culture and beliefs, even as others try to take everything from you. Apparently the 3rd of November is just a very busy day for publishing, because also coming out on this date is the 3rd instalment in Alison Weir's England's Medieval Queens series, and that book is Queens of the Age of Chivalry. I've previously read Alison Weir's Queens of the Conquest and Queens of the Crusades, and I will will be honest, I've had kind of mixed feelings about them, but I do love a good Queen history. Queens of England are kind of my jam. So yeah, I'm probably gonna get around to this, especially when it comes out in paperback, I think. The third volume of Alison Weir's magisterial history of the Queens of medieval England. Medieval queens were seen as mere dynastic trophies, yet many of the Plantagenet queens of the High Middle Ages dramatically broke away from the restrictions imposed on their sex, as Alison Weir shows in this gripping group biography of England's 14th century consorts. Using personal letters and wonderfully vivid sources, Alison Weir evokes the lives of 5 remarkable queens: Marguerite of France, Isabella of France, that's gonna be fun, Philippa of Hainaut, Anne of Bohemia, and Isabella of Valois. So if you're following along with the kings, that's taking us from the second wife of Edward I up to Richard II. The turbulent, brutal age of chivalry witnessed the Black Death, the Peasants' Revolt, the 100 Years' War against France, and savage baronial wars against the monarchy in which these queens were passionately involved. Queens of the Age of Chivalry brilliantly recreates this truly dramatic period of history through the lives of 5 extraordinary women. And doesn't that sound right up my street? Moving away from the 3rd of November, we now move swiftly on to the 8th of November, in which Haruki Murakami's new non-fiction book, Novelist as a Vocation, will be coming out. And I've never actually read any non-fiction from Haruki Murakami, although I hear very good things. And I've only read 3 of his fiction books, and they have been kind of hit or miss. I've tended to find that the more realist books work really well for me, but the things that are a little bit more supernatural, speculative, just don't really work for me. But I'm always really interested in hearing writers talking about their process. Haruki Murakami's myriad fans will be delighted by this unique look into the mind of the master storyteller. In this engaging book, the internationally best-selling author and famously reclusive writer shares with readers what he thinks about being a novelist, his thoughts on the role of the novel in our society, his own origins as a writer, and his musings on the sparks of creativity that inspire other writers, artists, and musicians. Readers who have long wondered where the mysterious novelist gets his ideas and what inspires his strangely surreal worlds will be fascinated by this highly personal look at the craft of writing. Short and simple, does the job. I'm expecting interesting things. Next up, a short diddy little thing. We have the newest installment in Caroline Duffy's Christmas poems. She published one of these every year when she was Poet Laureate, but since she's no longer Poet Laureate anymore, I honestly thought she was going to stop doing them, and she seemed to have stopped doing them for a few years. But I guess demand was just too high, or she had a new spark of ideas, and I'm very much looking forward to it because I love these Christmas poems so much. I have each of them individually, and I have the binder, so when this new one, Advent Street, comes out on the 10th of November, I am going to be right there reading it. In this enchanting illustrated Christmas poem, Caroline Duffy invites readers to open the windows on Advent Street. In each one is a gift. You may find yourself back straight watching a ballerina poised to begin, or catch your lips moving in time with a festive song that drifts out into the night. Whatever the surprise when the curtains draw back and the lights sharpen, Duffy's beguiling words paired with captivating illustrations from Yelena Brixenkova call you inside to feel the warmth. It's going to be so pretty! Also, because Caroline Duffy's Christmas poems were actually the first things that I read in 2014, which was my year where I resolved that I was going to get back into reading, so they just have a really special place in my heart. They're short but sweet, and I love them very much. Another book that follows on the trend of books about writers on writing, coming out on the 10th of November, we have What Writers Read. 35 writers on their favourite book by Pandora Sykes, or collected by Pandora Sykes. And this just sounds so good. In this love letter to reading curated by Pandora Sykes in aid of the National Literacy Trust, best-selling and beloved writers share their favourite books, the ones they hold most dearly, that they return to time and again, and that help them make them the writers they are. And this includes contributions from Nick Hornby, Ruth Ozeki, Anne Patchett, Benjamin Zephaniah, Marianne Keyes, Elizabeth Strout, Deborah Levy, Tessa Hadley, Elif Shafak, George the Poet, Leila Slimani, Ali Smith, Dolly Alderton, Paris Lees, Jojo Moyes, Paul Mendes, Sebastian Fawkes, Diana Evans, Mina Kandasamy. Mina Kandasamy? Oh, I love Mina Kandasamy. Lisa Tadeo, Nikesh Shukla, Tay Selassie, Monica Ali, Nina Stibb, Caleb Azuma Nelson, Elizabeth Day, Sarah Collins, Damon Galgut, Nisha Dolan, William Boyd, Emma Dabiri, Fatima Bhutto, and Kit DeWall. That is quite a collection of authors. That's going to be really good. I can feel it. Another book to add to my book about books collection. The penultimate book on my list, also coming out on the 10th of November, is The Weather Woman by Sally Gardner. I recognised the name Sally Gardner, but I wasn't sure what for, and when I looked at her profile page, it seems that she's written a lot of children's books, so that's probably where I know her name from, though I've never read any myself. But this, I believe, is adult historical fiction, set in the 18th century, so, tick, tick, tick. Neva Friesland is born into a world of trickery and illusion, where fortunes can be won and lost on the turn of a card. She is also born with an extraordinary gift. She can predict the weather. In Regency England, where the proper goal for a gentlewoman is marriage, and only God knows the weather, this is dangerous. it is also potentially very lucrative. In order to debate with the men of science and move about freely, Neva adopts a sophisticated male disguise. She foretells the weather from inside an automaton, created by her brilliant clockmaker father. I'm getting really strong Belle vibes from this. But what will happen when the disguised Neva falls in love with a charismatic young man? It can be very dangerous to be ahead of your time, especially as a woman. 18th century, you know, woman trying to make it in a man's world. Love it, love it, looking forward to that. And then finally, coming out on the 15th of December, taking us a little bit further on in history to the Victorian era, we have Living Dangerously, The Hazardous World of the Victorians by Ian Gregory. Shame it's not coming out in October, because this would make a very good Victober read, I think. This collection of mishaps and tragedies covers almost every field of human endeavour, from travel to work and home. One can learn a lot about how the people of the 19th century travelled, worked, worshipped, played, loved, lived, and sometimes died. From coaches to railways, from industry to mining to seafaring, farming, and even ballooning, author Ian Gregory has collated a unique history, delving beneath newspaper headlines to find relevant information and marvellous contemporary illustrations. And then it gives some examples of some of these dastardly headlines. So yeah, just kind of recounting all of the different ways that life was dangerous and all of the headlines that came from this. So that sounds very fun and a little bit scary, not gonna lie. So there we go, those are all of the books that are on my radar right now that I'm really excited about, coming out between October and December of this year. I'm sure to have missed many exciting books coming out, so please do let me know about anything that you think I might be interested in. Alternatively, just let me know about any of the books that you yourself are interested in that are coming out in this time period. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks.